Hi, my name is Mary Wong, and I'm a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine practitioner and acupuncturist, author of the book Pathways to Pregnancy, and founder of Alive Holistic Health Clinic. I am so grateful to have a special guest with us this evening who was supposed to be with us last week, but there was, little trials and tribulations. Things happen. That's what life is. And so I'm honored to have her back today or tonight. And her name is Carolyn Dube. And I'll tell you a little bit about her. She's the executive director for Fertility Matters. And she herself has been a vocal advocate for publicly funded fertility treatments after she had a successful IVF treatment and the birth of her son in 2013. And so she's been an executive director for going on 3 years, so since February 2015. And she believes in equal access to care and support for all those who need to build their families using alternative methods. Carolyn is a founding leader of East Coast Miracles. She's a true believer in the importance of education, support, continued advocacy, so patients are able to make informed decisions about their reproductive care. And so, as we all know, who are in the fertility world, 1 in 6 are having issues. So, me, we're really keen on helping those that are in need and helping those that may not even know that they're in need. So let me pull her in and let's get going. And I'm excited to share, or actually, I'm excited to hear your story in your fertility. So let me bring you in. There we go. Hello there, Carolyn.
Hi, Mary.
Okay, so I'm making you big on the screen and me a little person because we will hear your story.
Yeah.
So, very first of all, tell me like from the start to finish your fertility journey.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. It's lovely to be able to work with you. So, my husband and I got married in 2011. And quite soon after that, we started to try to build our family, and it wasn't happening. And then after about 6 months, we sat down and I said, something's not right. I knew I could feel it in my gut. I had a few friends that worked in the fertility industry, and I talked to them, and they said, you really should maybe talk to your family doctor. My husband was in the military at the time, so it was quite easy for us to get referrals, which was amazing. And I went to see my family doctor, and he went to see his physician, and he was referred to a urologist. And we found out that we actually had a male factor issue, which in fact made us infertile. And we were referred to a fertility clinic. And so by the time we sort of decided that there was probably an issue and that we had our bums in a seat in a fertility clinic was about 12 months. So in the fall of 2013, actually. So maybe it was a little bit longer. It might have been 24 months now that I think about it. So we'd seen the clinic, and they had told us that IVF and ICSI were actually the only way we were going to achieve a pregnancy. And since I was a young female under the age of 35, this was probably going to be quite successful for us. And so we did a fresh IVF cycle. I was brand new to this world. And in December of 2013, we transferred a single embryo after a fresh cycle, which was actually unsuccessful. And I can tell you that was probably the worst day of my life because I'd gone through this process. And
so let me just cut in for a second, okay? So for those, because there are going to be people here that might be just starting out, so there's a lot of lingo going on, so we need to actually describe what everything is, okay? So
for sure.
So fertility issues, you go and get a diagnosis of male factor infertility, and then because of that, typically, when there's a male factor, the automatic go-to is let's go straight to in vitro fertilization, which is fertilization of the egg and sperm outside the body. So it's not a petri dish. Okay.
That's right.
And what ICSI is where they they'll like look under the microscope and they'll pick out a beautiful little sperm. They'll say, oh, gee, beautiful head, nice little body, nice little whiplash, whip-like movement of the tail. It's swimming forward, it's fast. Let's pick this guy. And that's literally how they do it. Okay. And then they'll take a little pipette and they suck it out from the tail and then they insert it into the egg, just like that. And then you want to that's how they attempt to fertilize it through the lab, but then you really have to see if it actually works or not. So in your case, it did work. It did fertilize and become embryos.
Yeah. And
Okay.
we ended up with six embryos after and I did a 5-day transfer of a single embryo. So I had talked to my doctor. I was a young, healthy female under 35, and their recommendation was really to do this single embryo transfer, which we did in early December. And 16 days later, took a blood pregnancy test, and it was negative. And that was a shock to my system, and to my husband's, of course, because we weren't actually expecting that. We were expecting that this was going to work. We had just spent $13,000, and we didn't know now what the next steps were in those immediate hours and days and weeks after the failed pregnancy test. And so we got our bearings in early in the new year. We went back to the clinic and we sat down with the doctors, and they said, this is, of course, by this point we realized that you don't get pregnant every time through the process. And so we moved on to a frozen embryo transfer. And that was happening in March of 2014. What's interesting is my husband, who was in the military, was deployed ended up getting deployed. I'd already started my medications for a frozen embryo transfer.
Wow.
And so he was deployed to Inuvik, which is north of the Arctic Circle. And I did a frozen embryo transfer with my mom. We transferred 2 frozen embryos. And I did get pregnant while my husband was thousands of miles away.
Wow.
Yeah. So as a result, my son was born. We had a singleton pregnancy, and my son was born in December of 2013.
Wow, that's a amazing story. And so I think the take home with this is, as you had mentioned, what I see at our clinic is that basically the more intervention there is, it's like there's more at stake and there's a higher expectation of it working in that moment. And what we know in reality and what you saw in your experience is that it's certainly not the case. And more research shows that, in fact, initially they used to say it's 1 in 3 IVFs that it will work. And now there's even data to show that it could be up to 6 IVFs, which is like crazy, because who can afford that kind of money, right?
Absolutely.
So I guess that's probably what prompted you to say, hey, let's be in this field and make a difference. So I really want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I'm quite passionate about it, for sure.
Oh, for sure. So I guess this is what made you an advocate.
Absolutely. It did. The winter my son was born, so in the winter of 2014, I may have given you some wrong dates there, I think, when I did my frozen embryo transfer. Anyway, I did that in 2013. Now we're into 2014. And I've been contacted by the clinic that we'd done our treatment in. They were rebuilding their website and were interested to know if I was interested in doing a video for them, a patient experience video. And I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. And in my preparation for this, I had done some research. I was part of a few online chat forums. And I really realized that the information that I got was, I Googled a lot of stuff, but I couldn't find, there wasn't a place where I could get information, where I could go and get reliable information in Canada about my treatment options, what to expect, what should I be doing, that type of thing. I had online support groups and women that I connected with online, which is incredible. And so I started to talk to the clinic, and we started to have meetings, and they had already been thinking about starting a provincial patient advocacy group. And that's where East Coast Miracles was born. So with me and a few other patients around the table in the clinic that I was in, we started this advocacy group to continue the conversations with government in all 4 Atlantic provinces, actually, to educate them on the realities of what it looks like to be infertile and what support and what that can mean and the importance of a single embryo transfer. So that's where my patient advocacy efforts started.
Wow.
Boardroom, yeah, at my fertility clinic.
That's great. No, and listen, I've seen other people do similar kinds of things in a very different way, like some people through their workplace itself. But I myself, actually, while I was going through fertility challenges, I was called on to be part of the expert panel for infertility and adoption for the province of Ontario. And
Amazing.
because of our group of 12, one who became the Governor General of Canada, we were the ones that spearheaded the IVF funding in Ontario. We actually asked for 3 and we ended up getting 1. So it was really amazing to see it come into fruition, because I'll tell you, at the time, we thought, you know what, we're doing all this work and I don't think it's going to happen, and it gets shelved. And so it was really, really great to now see it in action, second year.
That's right. And that committee is to be commended, because it's now the gold standard of fertility care provincially in Canada. And all the other provinces are looking to Ontario and to your committee and the committees that worked on these projects to figure out how they can now do the same model in their own provinces.
So do you have funding now?
No, and that was in Nova Scotia, so no, we don't.
Okay.
I'm currently living in New Brunswick, and we do have a funding model here.
Oh, so then that's great.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. There are 4 provinces in Canada who actually have a funding model. All 4 are very different, but some support is financial support specifically is better than nothing. So New Brunswick, Quebec, Ontario, and Manitoba.
Okay, because at the time it was just Quebec.
That's right.
When I was on my panel,
Yes.
So kind of modeling it, but then obviously saying it in a very different way, right? That's great. Okay, so I want to let you know that part of our clinic, we did a program about paying it forward, and I think I told you that we, well, you should know by now that we donated money to Fertility Matters.
Yes.
So that's great.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. As some of your viewers might not know, Fertility Matters is actually a Canadian charity. So all of the work that we do is solely focused on education, advocacy, getting information and resources to patients. So charitable donations like yours help us to continue that programming for patients.
So when they find you, what do they get when they go onto your website?
So so we're very active on both social media, and we've got a beautiful website. So when you land on fertilitymatters.ca, you'll find several different sections. So we partner with different professionals in the fertility industry across the country. So if you're looking for information on surrogacy or egg and embryo or sperm donation, we work with groups and individuals like yourself to make sure that we've got accurate, relevant information to get out to our patients. We love connecting them with active groups across the country and sometimes in other countries so that they are able to gather this information and make really informed decisions about their reproductive care. We've got an amazing, one of my very favorite parts of our website. I've got 2. The first part is our patient blog. So every Monday and every Thursday, we have a group of about 15 patient bloggers from across Canada. Some blog more professionally, and some are just not just personal, but they started off with a personal blog about their infertility stories. And so we bring new content to patients, for patients, every Monday and every Thursday. And it is patient written. It lives on our website, and it is amazing. And the traffic that is driven to our website because of those blogs is incredible, because patients are connecting with each other through someone else's written word, and it's incredibly powerful. The other favorite part of our website is called the 1 in 6 series, hashtag 1 in 6 for the 1 in 6 Canadians who are struggling to build their family. And several years ago, during Canadian Infertility Awareness Week, we kicked off a campaign for people and invited people to write their infertility journey and submit that to us. And so when they do that, they tell their journey in their own words, and they submit a photo, and we post those on our website, and we share those through social media. And also, again, because people are finding these stories and reading these stories, they're connecting with someone who's going through or has gone through a really similar journey, and it makes them feel a little bit better. They aren't alone. Even if they're not able to speak to extended family or friends about what's going on in their reproductive, if they're having fertility issues, they're able to read and feel like there's a group of people out there, and a significant number of Canadians are in that group. And so it's nice to be able to connect that way. So resources, blogs, links to all of our support groups, both online and in person. So we have peer-led support groups right across the country. You can find those listed on our events page. And of course, Canadian Infertility Awareness Week is coming up this spring. So we're really excited to be able to connect with so many Canadians then.
Yeah, that's great. And so I want to let you know that my book, Pathways to Pregnancy,
Yes.
now it was born because of my journey, but really what gave birth to it was also because of the fact that when I saw patients suffering in my clinic room, I ultimately would see them eventually, somehow, through one way or another, get pregnant and have a baby to term. So, and they may have very different backgrounds, different diagnoses, different ages, different circumstances. And yet, really, when I was going through it personally, it was like they were my piece of hope. And I just felt so privileged. And I thought, wow, that's a huge missing. And I felt sad for these women that did not have access to these stories. So I would start sharing my patient stories,
Amazing.
right? With
That's
them.
amazing. And so powerful.
So, and that's why my book itself, it's 15 stories of hope, and one of which is my own, and then it includes the different kinds of ways that they have children.
Build their family.
Right?
It's amazing. Absolutely.
So I think it's really great what you're doing, and continue doing that. And I'd love to contribute in a different capacity too. I mean, you could stick my live posts
Absolutely.
on as blogs, right? Like, and then they could just go see them. It'll be great.
That's great.
Yeah, and eventually I'm actually converting all my Facebook live posts to YouTube, so then it would just it'll be forever.
Amazing. So important.
Yeah. Okay, so we can do that. We can talk about that offline. Okay, but we can collaborate for sure. And you're doing great things, so thank you for that. Now, what is your advice for someone who has just been recently diagnosed with fertility challenges? Now, you'll notice that I don't like to use the word infertility. I actually don't buy into it. I don't believe in it. I believe that it's a challenge in that moment. Absolutely. Because really, are you looking at yourself as infertile when you have a child, yes, conceived through extra help, right?
Absolutely. And it's amazing that you mentioned this. Several years ago, Fertility Matters Canada wasn't named Fertility Matters Canada. We did a rebrand, and it was because, number one, people don't like to be, who wants to say I'm infertile? Like it's got such a negative spin. And so that was feedback that we got from our patients, and we really listened, and we believed that that was absolutely true. And so when we took on the name Fertility, because not only are people, people find us because they're having an issue conceiving, or they know that they need help to start their family. But what's equally important is educating people about their fertility when they're young.
Absolutely.
And so they can take charge of their fertility and know, and so you're not starting your family at 32, 33 and finding out that there was an issue that maybe we could have helped a little earlier in life.
Or 40,
Excuse me.
45. A lot of women come in their like
Absolutely.
40s, starting a family, right? And there's also different ways of creating families. So, there are women that are single. And guess what? Oftentimes you don't start out when you're young saying, when I'm older, I'm just going to do it on my own.
That's
Most
right.
they're not in that place.
Right.
But yet push comes to shove as we get older, we become professionals. Just somehow, one way or another, we're still single.
Hmm.
And then you're evaluating. It's like, maybe I could do this. And we see
Absolutely.
lots of single women doing it.
Absolutely, and it's incredible. And we support those families, and those women and those men who
Yeah,
go on to be, they haven't found a partner and they want to be a dad. And so that's part of who we are, and we believe in family building, and that's why we do what we do.
sure, absolutely. And in those scenarios, really, they're fertility challenged. They're not even infertile as the diagnosis would
For
represent it.
sure, absolutely,
Mhm.
and deserve to have a family just as much as anybody, and it's incredible. Hmm.
And that includes, I don't want to disclude anyone. We want to be completely open and inclusive. So same-sex couples, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's incredible because there's more and more resources coming out to ensure that everybody's got the support they need and the information they need so that they can make these informed decisions.
Absolutely. So,
Now, one piece of advice, is that what we were talking
yes.
about? So, one piece of advice. It's really fun to talk to you, Mary. We'll get sidetracked if we're not careful. So the one piece of advice I would give to people is um, find a support network. If you've got to go through a diagnosis of infertility, doesn't mean you need to move directly to IVF. There are lots of different technologies and treatments that may help, and you're going to speak to your doctor about that. But what I can confirm is that it can get frustrating, and it can feel lonely, and it can feel isolating, and you can feel really sad when all of your friends have pregnancy announcements all over Facebook and you've been invited to yet another baby shower. Find a support network of people or a person who you can either confide in, whether that's an online support group. And you can join these groups and you don't ever have to say a word, but it's nice to just read or connect with the stories on fertilitymatters.ca, read Mary's book, connect with people, and find people who have walked this path before you. 1 in 6 of your peers are going through the same struggle. And lots of times that person can't be your spouse. You need someone outside of your network, because they're also, they also are struggling. And that was one thing my husband and I did. We recognized the need for support, and we both sought support outside of ourselves, which was really important, because when you're frustrated and you're angry and or very sad, sometimes connecting with your spouse can be difficult. And so you're able to have conversations outside. So connect with us. We will help in any way that we can. Follow us on Facebook, send us a message, pop us an email. We will always respond. If you're getting an email or a Facebook message from my office, it's usually from me. We're very small, so it's me and I have an administrator. And so we will always answer right away, and we will absolutely do everything we can to get you the information and support you need.
Great. So what's the website?
www.fertilitymatters.ca.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Thank
so
you, Mary.
thank you for being here. I'm gonna just go back to me for a moment, stay on the line, and then we can have a little quick chat after. So thank you for being with us tonight. And I am excited to also next week, we're gonna speak to Dr. Sharma out of Create, and that is in Toronto. And she started this online blogging. So it's 2 reproductive endocrinologists. It's called Conception Diary. So it'll be great to speak to them or her about it, because and hers is very science based, which is great, and up to date with the latest research and stuff like that. And yet, thankfully, she's also open-minded. So in fact, I did an article with her on her website, so you can check that out. So again, that one is Conception Diaries, but I'll speak to her tomorrow, next week. So please join us for that. Next week, it'll be Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And by the way, this year, I'm going to do like a whole new model. I'm not going to be tied down to Wednesdays at 8 p.m. anymore. We're going to kind of, so this evening, for example, it's 7 p.m. because the future, what we're going to do is we're going to end up doing it maybe like any time of day, because here's the real deal. Unfortunately, when people have fertility challenges, they don't want to be known. So they don't even want to watch it live, and they don't want to acknowledge that they're watching this live because they're scared to press a like, because they don't want to be known, because this is a public social media thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer it from Facebook over to YouTube at some point, and then you can just watch it any old time, good old-fashioned way. And hopefully you'll reach out to me for any kinds of questions, because I've done this model so that people can ask questions on the spot, but really there's not much uptake. It's like you can hear the pin drop, right? Because nobody wants to be known. So, and that's okay. That's fine, because it is a private journey, and I really respect that. And there are some people that will come out, but and whatever way, just reach out to me. And it's mw@aliveholistic.health.ca. And if you have any ideas for new posts, that would be great too. I've been told that I should do some recipes, more recipes. So I'll be doing that in the future, and talking specifics with regards to things like endometriosis, more polycystic ovaries, things. And I'll have more interviews with other doctors and practitioners in both the Western realm and the holistic realm. So that'll be coming. So thank you again, and join me next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, check out my posts below, other videos. This is my 72nd one, so there's lots of posts. And get my book, Pathways to Pregnancy, so that you can get some hope and inspiration now. We'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye for now.